They are scenes that are now happening daily in towns and cities across the country. In Bristol, there were clashes as police tried to keep apart a group of far-right protesters.
Crowds of people enraged by lies and indifference filled the streets. They didn't just speak out against Starmer, they expressed accumulated despair, fear, and hope for change. The posters being held up in the air were full of passion and anger, and the eyes were burning with determination to achieve justice. Starmer realized, I think, that his words no longer have the power they used to have. He was surrounded by chaos and his political beliefs were severely tested. He never thought that his decisions would lead to such a violent protest. Some of these people are now in prison for expressing their opinions. Will this force him to rethink his policy in any way? I don't think so. And so,
and a much larger anti-fascist counter-protest. It felt unpredictable, confrontational and tense, as in so many places in the last few days, the police right in the middle of the disorder.
The frustrated British showed amazing resilience by making their concerns and grievances clear, rather than wreaking havoc by giving Starmer and his team the opportunity to attack them. This is a proper warning for Starmer, an alarm signal. However, what became the spark that ignited the whole commotion? Why do their voices remain unheard and the interests of the people are ignored? It seems to many that the matter is in a terrible crisis situation with the standard of living, when some people are barely making ends meet, while others are completely dependent on state aid. Unfortunately, the protests are spreading beyond Britain and into Germany, where the government is also showing indifference to its citizens. This problem affects everyone, so people of different ages and social groups take to the streets. Young people, families, the elderly, even with pets. Initially, the protests were peaceful, but Starmer's actions provoked anger, which led to clashes and riots. People are expressing their dissatisfaction not only because of Tommy Robinson's arrest, but also for many other reasons. In an environment where arrests occur even for simple statements on social networks, tension and discontent among citizens are escalating. This is a clear signal that society requires change and attention to its position. Robinson became a vivid symbol of controversy. His harsh statements made him famous. Despite all this, he did not violate his rights to freedom of speech. But it is worth recognizing that the matter is not limited only to his personality. The Robinson situation reflects a much larger problem. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Harsh law enforcement measures have triggered a wave of protests where people take to the streets demanding justice and respect for their rights. With each new arrest, public outcry grows and discontent accumulates. Society is beginning to ask questions about the legality of the actions of the authorities and how.
The way involving a right-wing group called Enough is Enough. As you can see, scuffles have broken out with police after the protesters threw flares towards the gates of Downing.
The confrontation between Robinson and the judicial system is escalating, and many are thinking about the consequences. The arrest in Folkestone against the background of his intention to leave the country has become a symbol of a broader struggle for freedom of speech. Robinson's supporters see him as a martyr, a victim of the system. This creates excitement among the protesters, who are ready to take to the streets to express their discontent and support. Starmer is facing additional pressure due to the growing hatred among the protesters. They are not just expressing discontent, but also specifically accusing him of the deaths of innocent people such as Peter Lynch, causing a public outcry and forcing him to take active action.
No, get back! Get back now! Get back! Close line! Go! Oh, you're dying, ain't you, mate? Oh, I can see them eyes, at least. Yeah. Scum! Praying for our children. I pray for my children. I pray for my children. I pray for the shield. I pray for my children.
Peter Lynch ended up in prison after he attended a rally near the hotel where asylum seekers were housed. Just a month after his arrest, which many considered a clear injustice, Lynch died. Activists and the media claim that he only uttered a few harsh words to the police and migrants. No matter how you perceive his statements, this story has increased public discontent. Many are asking questions about how the justice system reacts to such incidents. The justice system reacts inhumanly, absolutely unfairly. How much of an idiot do you have to be to release particularly dangerous criminals from prison and put people who have insulted police officers a couple of times for a very long time?
So, it seems to me that there's a problem with Tommy Robinson and the judiciary in this country, almost as though they're not quite sure how to deal with him, and he kind of is running rings around them at times.
There does seem to be a bit of a standoff between Mr. Robinson and the courts. Obviously, this is one of a number of cases that he's had to deal with, both on the criminal side and in this particular instance, the civil side.
Right. I mean, there were a lot of people, particularly sort of free speech advocates, who were concerned that he appears to have been arrested this time under terrorism charges, but that's not quite the case, is it? I mean, he was arrested at Folkestone, I understand, trying to leave the country, presumably in a car to go on a boat or to go on a train or something like that.
Yes, I mean,
but he wasn't actually arrested under terror charges.
Keir Starmer calls people who have their own opinions extremists. What kind of respect for the people can we talk about, and how can we respect them? This behavior caused a wide public outcry, and many expressed their outrage. Now he has to think about his words, catching himself thinking that hasty accusations can have serious consequences. However, the situation he is facing is becoming increasingly difficult, as he can no longer escape responsibility for his actions. The public watched in disbelief as a 61-year-old man with diabetes ended up in prison for simple verbal insults. The situation worsens when there are rumors that such a policy of persecution of certain views may lead to even more serious consequences in the future. People demand explanations and transparency, and now it is important that the authorities respond to these challenges.
Let's talk about Peter Lynch. He's the 61-year-old father of four, a granddad, apparently a devoted family man. As far as we can work out, never had a criminal record. But he did go to Rotherham to, in a way, participate in that reprehensible riot there. He was outside that hotel where the migrants were. Now, his crime was this. He shouted nasty words at the police, called them racists and called them scum, and he held up an incomprehensible placard covered in conspiracy theories. That was his crime. There it is. I mean, make of that what you will. Now, he went to court, and the judge actually said, although you did not yourself attack any police officer, the judge actually made a point of saying that Mr. Lynch did not do anything violent, but of course the shouting and the holding of the placard fanned the flames, and for that it was decided, or the judge decided, that warranted 2 years and 8 months behind bars. Nobody is condoning his participation in that nasty riot, but my God, does that deserve that long a sentence? I don't think so.
Who would have thought that one day people could be sent to prison just for expressing disagreement? Starmer is overwhelmed not only by attempts to suppress dissent, but also by unpopular solutions that only exacerbate existing problems. The economic situation is becoming critical. Living standards are falling catastrophically, unemployment is rising, and public services are losing the attention they deserve. Is it possible to consider a stable government where officials are unable to offer effective solutions? Only the interests of a small group of people come to the first position, which causes even greater discontent among citizens. Democracy should mean freedom of speech and the right to protest, but where are their guarantees in an authoritarian government? The people are tired of the constant pressure and supervisory practices to which they are exposed every day.
Discussing he broke the law in Britain. You're not allowed to be right-wing anymore. That's an imprisonable offence, apparently. But he was a father of four. He was apparently a loving grandfather, and we can't find any criminal record for this guy before he ended up in court for this. So, political prisoners, they end up in jail for grotesquely disproportionate amounts of time on trumped-up charges. I think you're right. He's a political prisoner, Isabel.
Well, I'm not moving on from that assessment. He definitely was a political prisoner, and probably the first political prisoner in modern British history to die in jail, and it is an utter tragedy. You know, looking at those posters, your placards.
This alarming situation threatens the very essence of democracy. Freedom of speech is a fundamental principle that allows society to develop and diversify opinions. The suppression of these freedoms sets a dangerous precedent that could have long-term consequences for future generations. Imagine what is happening now when the Labour Party is in power. It's a disaster. I'm afraid to imagine what will happen next. Share your thoughts about this video in the comments. See you later.